the Hercules movie because I'm not a child. The Hercules to me was much more of the holding the ring up and boop, 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 boop. The very classic old rerun from the 60s, right? But yeah, it's funny, you know, these planetary alignments do occur most years. What's great about this one is it's actually happening at night, so we can see it, because this is the other thing is to always to remember is that these things are always still going on even when it's daytime, right? So, but the sun's light obscures it. So this one's at night. Not only is it at night, but it's in the couple hours right after sunset. So it's super easy to go out and take a look rather than having to get up at like 4 a.m. or something like that, right?
So normally, how many planets in the sky can we see if we look up?
Well, I mean, there's
on an average night.
On an average night, I mean, I was in the stargazing videos that I do on the University of Guelph Department of Physics YouTube page. You could, I mean, in a typical go, I mean, this time of year, Jupiter is always super bright and easy to see. Venus is massive and bright right now. But during this planetary alignment, and I mean, they're telling you to go out this week and take a look. But the truth of the matter is, all throughout January and into part of February, you're going to be able to see these same 4 visible planets. So you're going to be able to see Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. And then in February, you might be able to just catch Mercury just as the sun is setting.
Okay. Why are we seeing these at this time? What is happening that causes this phenomenon?
Well, okay, so this is a pretty elaborate setup here for something that's
you're about to explain this to a science lesson.
In essence, it's a pretty simple scenario. In essence, I mean, you can think about how the Earth rotates around the sun, right? Hopefully, we're all on board with that.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Well, I have to mark my astronomy finals, and I do understand that is not necessarily a given that we know that. However, think about the sun as being in the center of a record on a record player, right? And the Earth is on that record and it's rotating around. Well, all of the planets are also more or less on that record. We all sort of rotate around the sun in the same plane. So rather than being scattered around over this large celestial sphere, we're kind of on that record player. So you can imagine that if you looked out into the sky to try to spot those other planets that are on that record player, they'd all kind of lie along the same line. That line's called the ecliptic. And for us, it is basically the path that the sun follows in the sky, more or less. So if you take a look in the sky, going from east to west, it's up, I don't know, maybe 30 degrees up above the horizon line right now, and it's a big arcing line. Now, the great thing about the ecliptic is you don't even necessarily have to spot it. Most of these stargazing apps have an option to just show it, and that's where you'll spot those planets in the sky, is along that line.
Yeah. So I was just about to ask, if you're going outside, it's a nice clear night. Today is Monday the 21st. Tomorrow, January 21st, is the best night to see it. What should we be looking for?
Yeah, they're saying that's the best night, mostly because the moon isn't rising till after midnight. So you don't have the light from the moon obscuring this, planetary alignment or planetary parade, as they're calling it in the press. What you're looking for is right where the sun has already gone down below the horizon at sunset. That's an easy spot to kind of peek at. And what's great about it is as long as it's clear, Venus is going to be more or less brighter than any other star that's going to be in the sky. So that'll be your starting point. So as the sun sets, you should be able to actually catch Venus and see it as that sky is dimming. So that's going to be in whatever side the sun sets in, which I always screw up, which I believe is north-south, is in the west.
Yeah, it rises in the east, sets in the west.
Sure, we'll go with that. It's to the right.
Okay. All right.
When my back is north, it's to the right. So if I take a look in that direction, you'll see Venus. Now follow that big arc all the way back around to the other horizon line, and Mars will be sitting up a little bit higher there. And the best way to spot Mars is that it will also be fairly bright, but it'll have like a reddish, orangish hue to it as well. And in between those two, you're going to be able to see Jupiter, which will be nice and bright. And following back towards where Venus was, Saturn will be pretty much right beside it.
You mentioned something that caught my attention. That was the stargazing apps.
Yeah.
How accurate are these?
They're fantastic.
And what have they done to help further just casual stargazers in terms of being able to appreciate what they're looking at in the sky?
Well, the great thing about your stargazing apps is it's using all of the technology that already exists in your phone, right? So your positioning grid, your locator that's running on you constantly 24 hours a day, that knows where you are, that knows what you're watching.
If you're going to tell these applications what you're doing 24/7, you might as well get some perks.
You get something out of it.
Yeah.
Except the strangely focused and targeted Instagram ads that I get, which is odd. But yeah, it uses your geolocator to give you a map of what the night sky is where you are. And the nice thing about it as well is it uses the orientation of your phone so that you can pretty much more or less map out where the sky is. And they're all fairly great.
Yeah.
One that I use on the laptop is called Stellarium. And the nice thing about that one is that you can put yourself wherever you want in the world or whatever day or time. Yeah. So if you are planning to go out and take a look in the evening, you can set it forward a few hours and see where things are going to be. Or, I mean, if you're at work, frankly, I mean, we can all admit that most people don't do anything when they're at work, so you might as well be looking up stargazing apps on your laptop anyway. Yeah. You can take a look at that and see where you should expect to see it. But when you get outside, you'll want to probably get one of these. I mean, there's a myriad of them.
What does it mean to you as an expert that, you've studied all these, you've been studying the skies for so long, that some amateur can just pick up an app? Like, you have to sort of appreciate that there's a whole generation, a whole new, audience for being able to look up and to know what they're looking at.
Yeah, I love it. In all honesty, astronomy more so than anything is something that I found that unifies people. And I mentioned to you before, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who hasn't looked up into the sky and wondered what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just excited to get people to talk about science and to be interested in how the world actually works and how our universe connects us as individuals and as people. So if somebody can pick up a phone that they've already got anyway and stop playing some dumb game for 5 seconds and actually look out into the sky and wonder what's going on, that's exciting to me. And I think it's a great starting point, especially to get young people into the STEM fields.
Yeah, well put. Yeah, that's a great point. The STEM fields, and there's definitely a shortage of those kind of jobs out there in terms of what people can do and having that inspiration just by looking up, because that really is, like you said, how many people haven't stopped and just looked at the stars and thought how small we all are, or how we're all here on this one tiny little rock that just happened to be able to support human life.
Well, and you look at all the great breakthroughs that have taken place in space technology, even in the last few years. The James Webb Space Telescope, the Artemis missions to the moon. You're looking at this thing that doesn't take an individual. This takes nations. It takes it takes scientists, it takes technology people, it takes infrastructure people all across the world to work together for one common goal, which is to explore and to learn. I think that's incredible.
So what would your advice be to somebody who has picked up that application, who's using it every night, then wants to take it one step further and learn more? What would your advice be to them? Any books, any websites? Obviously,
definitely
the Stargazing YouTube page on the Guelph YouTube page. Obviously,
right? Yeah.
Obviously, the stargazing app in the Guelph time, or in the Guelph paper every week as well, every month, excuse me. But what would your advice be to someone looking to make that next step, maybe researching their first telescope or something?
Yeah,
like that?
So the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada has I don't even know affiliates across all of Canada. There's a Hamilton division, there's a Kitchener-Waterloo one as well. Most major cities have one of those. And so I would say reach out, learning from other people who are in your area, who have spent, in some cases a lifetime doing this, is the best starting point.
Mario Kart, we had him on leading up to the eclipse, so I know he does some stuff there too with the telescopes, and I encourage people you can rent them, and I know libraries do that too now. You can rent telescopes or borrow telescopes. So,
but I would recommend connecting with somebody who knows how to use it initially, because it can be daunting at first when you take one of these things, you take it out to the field and you put it up and you're like, okay, here we go. I'm ready to see the pictures that I see on my computer or on TV. When you realize that, what am I actually looking at here?
Speaking of looking up, a family in PEI,
looking up and looking out, right?
Had to look out. And my apologies to people who are listening to this on the podcast, but if you're watching this on YouTube, we're going to play the video for you here, because this is the first ever meteorite that was captured audio and video, and it happened in Prince Edward Island. Real quick, blink if you miss it. We got a couple of replays here if you're watching it again. But again, even if you're not watching it, you're not missing much. You're missing a little explosion here. We're going to take a look at the impact it made. But something like that, you pick up on a Ring camera. This little tiny, what would your first steps even be? We now know it was a meteor, which is incredible, but that's pretty incredible video.
Yeah, it's phenomenal too. That it's like, so it's the one time it was captured on on camera, and it's behind a barricade as well, right?
Just like a little, like, I don't even think that brick wall was for any purpose other than it looks nice.
It's what, 12 inch high, it completely is lost. It's phenomenal, you know, and it's I mean, we're only going to see more of this stuff as time goes on. Everybody has a camera on them now, and most buildings have cameras attached to them, and you know that quality is going up and up and up. So we're going to catch more of this stuff
because these things are constantly falling from the sky. Like, are meteorites constantly, like things like that? Like, should I be worried now that anytime a rock hits me into my windshield, that could have been a meteorite?
It could have been.
But how fast was that rock coming? Like,
well, I mean, you figure. I assume it's going to be somewhere on the order of 24 frames per second, right, in that Ring camera, and you don't see it coming through. So if it's captured in like one frame, it's coming into that space in 1/24 of a second, right?
That's incredible, and really,
often they don't impact the Earth.
Yeah,
though. For the most part, you know,
I shouldn't be terrified of a meteorite striking.
No, so as a meteor, and it's great use of the proper terminology. So we have meteor showers, which is when these tiny grain-like particles from space burn up in our atmosphere, and meteorite when they strike the Earth. Okay. And, you know, there's been a lot of work that's been done to predict how big these things need to be that we should be scared of them actually hitting, and what kind of damage they can cause. Because as you mentioned, you know, we saw how fast that one was going on the playback. These things, if they were the size of even like a beer fridge, I mean, that's enough to wipe out a substantial amount.
All right. Well, on that,
however, but it does burn up in the atmosphere for the most part. So you know, you get, when we do have meteorites that strike, they're often insignificant, and that's one of the big things. It wasn't necessarily last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe 2 years ago, where we looked at, NASA's been doing a lot of work with trying to redirect meteors in space and asteroids in space. So we saw that impact site where they launched into space, and they were actually able to push something off of its trajectory.
Any significance of the full moon last week? Was there anything special about
the wolf moon? Yeah, it was big.
Okay, yeah. I mean, so I was driving in. I was working morning, so I was driving in at about 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m., and really it was almost distracting on the QEW, like looking up past my windshield. So the wolf moon, that's just the first one. That you're like, what was the significance of it?
Oh, it's just the first full moon of the year. Okay. So it's called the wolf moon because this is the idea of you know, when the settlers were sitting there, they could hear the wolf howling out in the distance. That you know that all of these Farmer's Almanac names come from something that's kind of associated with.
What do you got going on? I know you recently announced your cross Canada tour with each themes. Your shows, the horror shows.
The freak shows.
The freak shows. Yeah. So hey, it's your time. You're on my show. You get to plug whatever you want.
Oh yeah, geez, yeah. So we're doing we're going
very serious stuff to it's all this.
We're going back to the Ink Circus Tattoo Expos this year. So we'll be again, I think they're hitting 6 cities across Ontario with our show and bringing in rotating talent as we go through. We're actually on CHCH back in October with Neely D, Pepper, and I here to showcase that. So we'll be doing that again as well this year. So it should be a good time. It gives us an opportunity to get out and to, you know, one of the great things about doing science outreach or about doing the freak show, one of the great things that I've learned to enjoy is meeting people. And you know, you get to meet people all across this country and all across the world, and again recognize the fact that we're all pretty similar when it comes down to it.
You got a different theme for each one. I know that's pretty cool too. Right?
Yeah, apparently. I just heard that too.
Be ready. Get ready for it.
They're theming everything.
Any new Guinness World Records lately that we should know
No,
about?
I've got some plans for some things. So we're hoping that come this autumn, we're going to have an opportunity to maybe to shake off the record-breaking shoes and get back in there.
I was about to say, how many is it now? 27, 28?
Yeah, we're at 27. It's been a little while since we've broken one, and as you can tell, I'm getting older by the second.
It's easier when you get older, right? Everything's just like everything else. It's easier when you get older.
But no, so I'm hoping that we can get we'll still, we can show these young upstarts a thing or two, and that we're still in the record-breaking game.
The Great Orbax, thank you.
No problem.
For making the time. I really appreciate it. All right, the planetary alignment is happening tomorrow. Look up January 21st, your best night of viewing, east to west. You'll have Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, Venus, and Saturn. Yep. All along that line. So thank you to the Great Orbax. Thank you to Justin Peeler for directing today's episode. And hey, while you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to CHCH Podcast and never miss an episode of this show or any of the other great shows we have for you. That'll do it on behalf of all of us here at CHCH. I'm Louie Butko. Have a great day.